Over Thanksgiving break, the Washington Post reported a story that made even jaded politicos do a double take. Multiple sources said that Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth ordered a second firing on a suspected drug running boat near Venezuela to make sure that survivors clinging to the wreckage were killed. No one's defending such an action, so rather than playing 15 sound bites from Republicans and Democrats condemning this, let me play you one clip from General Wesley Clark.
And I can tell you, if I'd been given an order to sink a boat and kill all the survivors, I wouldn't have done it. I mean, that's a patently illegal order. And you don't have to get into the law very far to see that. Every serviceman knows you don't shoot captured enemy, you don't kill wounded enemy and so forth if they're no threat to you.
For good measure, read this condemnation from leading conservative scholar and the legal commentator for, of all places, Fox News, Andrew McCarthy. And I quote, "If this happened as described in the Post report," which I should say was confirmed, "it was at best a war crime under federal law." He went on to say, "I say at best because, as regular readers know, I believe the attacks on these suspected drug boats, without congressional authorization, under circumstances in which the boat operators pose no military threat to the United States, and given that narcotics trafficking is defined in federal law as a crime rather than a terrorist activity, much less an act of war, they are lawless, and therefore the killings are not legitimate under the law of armed conflict." End quote. So blatant was the illegality of this that the current war manual of Hegseth's own Defense Department uses as an example of a, quote, clearly illegal order to commit law of war violations the following. For example, orders to fire upon the shipwrecked would be clearly illegal, end quote. Even Trump knew this was real trouble.
He didn't even know what people were talking about. So we'll look into it. But no, I wouldn't have wanted that, not a second strike. The first strike was very lethal, it was fine, and if there were two people around, but Pete said that didn't happen.
Does that make you?
I have great confidence. Pete said he did not order the death of those two men.
But of course, he spent no effort getting to the bottom of events. Why would he? He's the president after all. Mr. Hegseth, predictably, was his own worst enemy. First, he denied the Post reporting, claiming lazily that it was all fake news. Then, after the reporting was confirmed by multiple sources, he had his spokespersons reverse course, saying that this was all fine and right, but claiming a subordinate gave the order, which he nonetheless defended. To show how serious he considered war crimes or even murder, our Secretary of Defense then posted the following message under a heading, "For your Christmas wish list." Using a cartoon character my kids used to watch on TV, except now the character telling stories instead of friendship but blowing up boats with a rocket launcher, Pete was sure a clever boy. It's noteworthy that the two leading commanders who were tasked with enforcing these missions in the Caribbean, they resigned months ago, apparently concerned that they were not only being asked to break the law, but break the codes that they swore to uphold. It should also be noted that of every 4 boats we shoot down in international waters without confirmation, it's believed that at best 3 are transporting drugs. We also know that the cartels are actually kidnapping families and making the fathers carry narcotics, or they'll execute their loved ones. Now, we'll never know, of course, who those 2 souls were who were double-tapped, but you don't have to be cynical to wonder why this administration didn't want any survivors. Now, before any of you at home say, "Hey, Rich, the president's just trying to protect us from the influx of drugs," you're going to have to explain to me the case of Juan Orlando Hernandez. The former president of Honduras was serving a 45-year prison sentence in the States for allowing hundreds of pounds of cocaine to be trafficked into our country during his tenure. During his trial, a New York jury heard convincing evidence Hernandez took enormous bribes from the likes of El Chapo to funnel deadly drugs onto American streets, and he was then convicted. Well, Trump just decided to pardon Mr. Hernandez, claiming with no substance the former president got a raw deal. No, I don't think our president is consumed with a war on drugs and most certainly not concerned with the rule of law. But we do have a certain branch of government that doesn't really have to worry about these motivations. They actually have the power to investigate. It's called Congress. With the recent revelations Republicans claim to be concerned, even outraged about, I still wonder, and forgive me if I don't give them the benefit of the doubt here, if they'll do anything about it. Until I see meaningful hearings, I believe political cowardice will trump conviction. I've seen this tragic play too many times.